Ime Udoka. He is in Houston today interviewing for the Houston Rockets job. He's already been vetted, according to reports, about everything that went on in Boston from the Houston Rockets. So the Rockets have already done the investigation on Ime Udoka. If they're interviewing him after that, it means they're okay with everything that went on. Maybe that there are certain things in place that they need from Udoka if he gets hired, but they're willing to do business with Ime Udoka. Why is he your favorite candidate at the top of your list?
Well, because I think that from a basketball perspective, he brings credibility to the locker room. I believe that he was molded out of the Greg Popovich system. He cut his teeth along the way in different stops in which he got all the experience he needed. And then when he was given the opportunity from a basketball perspective to coach a young team and take them to another level, he was capable of taking them all the way to the NBA Finals. Now, he didn't get over the mountaintop, and obviously he had some issues after that. But the fact that he's still one of the highest regarded young coaches in the game, and what he did, you can't turn a blind eye to, both positively and negatively. But if you look at it just from a basketball perspective, this is the kind of guy that commands the locker room with this young team. This is the kind of guy that instant credibility and respect come with, so that these young kids go, I saw what you did for Tatum, and I saw what you did for Brown, and I saw what you did for all these Marcus Smart type players. This is the kind of locker room we got. This is the kind of guy we need. And you know what? What even bigger is the fact that Rafael Stone's not walking on this dude, interrupting practices, interrupting shoot-arounds, interrupting one-on-one coaching that he's getting from a coaching staff. And you believe that his coaching staff is going to be put together under the same mold and circumstance that he has, to where these guys are all going to come in and they're going to immediately be focused on, we're here to make you better. You're here to listen and learn. That's how we're going to set the new tone for this locker room. And Rafael, your job is to bring me talent. It's not to be involved in the day-to-day coaching. And you are already 100% better than you were the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm same reasons that I like him too. Plus, I think he's like relevant to this current day, right? Like, there's old voices in the past. They're like voices of authority. Like Jeff Van Gundy was a voice of authority. He hasn't coached in the NBA in forever, and he's not mentioned in the Rockets coaching search at all. But he has a history of being good right away, like Udoka does, in recent history. I mean, he was going to be the head coach of one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference this year before all this stuff went down. Now, hide the women. You better hide every woman that is in that front office, that is around that team. Put them all away. They can't be around when Ime Udoka's around. But he can coach ball, and this is what the team needs. They need a dude that's going to come in there. He's going to develop young players and bring the most out of these players. The Rockets right now have a lot of young players, and we argue about which one is higher on the pecking order, which one's higher on the power rankings. But you have Jalen Green, young player, Jabari Smith, young player, Alpi Şengün, young player. You're going to have somewhere between the 1st through 6th pick of the upcoming NBA draft, which is going to be another young player. You need somebody that's going to squeeze out the most talent and development from a core that has a lot of talent. I believe Ime Udoka can do that better than any of these other coaches. He's number one on my list. There's like 3 or 4 dudes that I like, though, that if the Rockets hired tomorrow, I would be pretty comfortable with.
Yeah, no, look, I think we talked about it yesterday, too. The list right now that they're compiling is a really good list. Now, James Borrego, he's another pop-type guy. He had a tough situation in Carolina with Charlotte because of the fact that MJ's so meddling. And so there is one guy that I would probably have a little reservation towards getting into that same situation again and being able to command the room, because he doesn't have the resume. He doesn't have the finals appearances. He doesn't have the experience dealing with young teams, coaching them up. Kenny Atkinson does. And we know that Udoka does. And we know that Nick Nurse was a product of the system. Nick Nurse won a championship. That immediately gives you credibility in the locker room. And Vogel's the same way. So if you're sticking under those lines, those guys are all right where they need to be, and they are perfect candidates for this job. But that's where they need to keep their focus. They need to keep focus. And this is a tough pill for Rafael Stone to swallow, because much like Nick Caserio, when I made the comparisons, he's felt really good about being the commander-in-chief in charge of everything and anything that he wants to get involved with. That is immediately going to stop if he has the cojones to hire a coach with credibility. Because the first thing the coach with credibility is going to do is just exactly what Lovey did as a veteran coach. No more on the headsets. No more talking on the headsets during games. No more over-involvement on practice fields. We're not doing that. That's not how I coach. These guys coming in bring even a better resume, because they were better coaches than Lovie Smith was in football. They have championships for the most part, or at least appearances in NBA Finals already. They're going to come in and set it straight. This is how we're doing business going forward, whether you like it or not. The key here for Rafael Stone, with how big and important this entire offseason is, free agency, draft, and coaching search, is will you have the guts to be able to trust that who you hire is the best coach for this job, even if it affects how you general manager your team on a daily basis?
Is there a name that's been interviewed or that has been rumored to be interviewed that you don't think fits that category?
Say that again?
Do you think there's a name that's been interviewed or is expected to be interviewed that doesn't fit the category of that is immediately the basketball voice and Rafael Stone's taking a back seat?
I think Borrego's one of those guys. I don't think Borrego's that kind of take charge guy.
So if Borrego's the hire, you're gonna still have the Stone.
I'm gonna have doubts.
Okay.
I'm gonna have questions and doubt.
That's
Yep,
fair.
for sure.
I think that because there's probably like a couple of the other names that are like the assistants that are well respected around the league, but nobody had any idea who they were. Those to me, I have questions about too. Like, are these going to be dudes that immediately come in and they command the entire room, the entire organization, and they hold court with everybody around? I don't know if I feel that way with some of these first-time head coaches and these assistants that are well-respected around the league. But you know who else was well-respected around the league? Stephen Silas. Stephen Silas was well-respected around the league, became the head coach. He had Harden and Westbrook. They immediately went into a rebuild, but never really commanded that room. So I don't want it to be an up-and-coming assistant. I don't want it to be this decorated, well-respected assistant coach that has never been a head coach and we've never really heard his name before. I want it to be one of the coaches and one of the names that we've talked about plenty where you immediately know that everybody else is second in command to that guy.
No, look, this is exactly why you don't take Milwaukee's first assistant. You don't take Phoenix's first assistant because it's the wrong situation for both parties. As a coach like a Stephen Silas, you were looking for the right opportunity because you might not get another one. And this turned out to be the wrong one. We know he didn't get what he signed up for. But things happen. Because of what we've already seen happen with this franchise, general manager, organizationally, the rumors that come out in the locker room, everything talking about this is a complete crap show that's upside down, going in the wrong direction. You can't take a guy that doesn't have any credibility through experience and give him the head coaching job. You have to take a guy that immediately grabs the bull by the horns, takes command of the locker room, has an understanding with the general manager, and says, this is how we're doing it going forward. And Rafael Stone's got to understand, because he's on a very, very hot seat right now, that this is in his best interest too. Because if this team keeps fledgling and flailing along with the reputation that it has, no matter how much he says he's willing to fight and how much he says this is how the culture really is, no one believes him, because guys that are still in that locker room are out there preaching this is the biggest bleep show they've ever seen for a team situation in a locker room. That has to change, because the pick you're going to make is so incredibly big for the future of this franchise.